Hello and welcome to my video on sizing koi pond filtration. So during this video I'm going to talk about the correct methods and correct combinations of filtration systems and where I went wrong when I first started this pond up and why after a year I almost changed my entire filtration system. So where did I go wrong? Well, we'll start with this picture. So this picture shows my Nexus 310 and the sieve that was with it. And this was the filtration for my pond when it first started up. So that Nexus right there can cope with a 34,000 litre pond according to its specifications. However, the pond that it's connected to is a 41,000 litre pond. But I also had that sieve, and that sieve was connected to this. So what we'll do is have a look downstairs, and the sieve was connected to an Econobead 100. Now this filter is rated for a 55,000 litre pond, and I thought that the Econobead would be the ultimate companion for the Nexus, also being 55,000 litres and a 34,000 litre capability Nexus. I thought that gave me well more than enough filtration for the 41,000 litre pond. However, it turned out I was wrong. And why was I wrong? Because of the types of filtration. Now, at the time of buying it, I thought this filter was also a good biological filter, and it is not. It's a terrible biological filter. It may have some good biological aspects to it that may be acceptable for a smaller pond, but not one of this size, and that's where the issue was. So, when sizing the Nexus, what I should have done is half the size of the pond that we're on. So the Nexus ideally wants to be on a 17,000 litre pond, and I'll get more into that later with the actual video from a Nexus. So why then did this bead filter not make any difference? Well, it did make difference. So this is a mechanical filter realistically, and the mechanical filtration aspects of this helped the Nexus. So it boosted the Nexus another, say, 10,000 litres in size, not 55,000 litres. So realistically I had filtration for a 27,000 litre pond, whereas it's still a 41,000 litre pond. I had excellent mechanical filtration. The mechanical filtration can easily do a 41,000 litre pond, but the biological filtration could not, and that's where my problems were. So what I did is I added another Econobead filter. So I added this after the Nexus. Now this one is capable of doing a 36,000 litre pond, and this is Econobead 60. Again, it was a really good thing to have after the Nexus, and if you think your water with a Nexus on it is a little bit murky, put an Econobead on it, it'll be clear as a bell. Because this picks up a lot of fine particles that the Nexus just cannot pick up. And the advantage of this is it increased my filtration again, but the mechanical filtration, which the better your mechanical filtration, the more amplified the effects of your biological filtration. So it did help, and putting this on probably got my Nexus to be running at its maximum biological filtration of 34,000 litre pond, but that's still not near a 41,000 litre pond. So I was still having issues, even though at that time I didn't have many fish in the pond. So the issues weren't great and weren't noticeable, but if I had the stocking level in the pond that I have now, then I would have had major problems. So then I had to get rid of the Nexus really, because I had sort of no other choice to get the water flow and the correct filtration that I need. So when I got rid of the Nexus, I got a purely mechanical filter, the Brophy Drum. So this Brophy Drum can mechanically process 55,000 litre pond, and that's what it's rated to. And now this is a good point as well. This is rated at the same mechanical filtration as that Econobead 100, but that Econobead 100 has got a 2-inch inlet and a 2-inch outlet. This has got two 4-inch outlets. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but four 4-inch inlets. So this has got all that sort of capacity and can do exactly the same as the Econobead. Well, that to me is a little bit weird, unless you know that the Econobead is realistically designed to run on a swimming pool and not so much a pond, whereas this is designed to run on a pond, and this can easily do 55,000 litre pond, whereas the Econobead just couldn't. It could do a 55,000 litre indoor swimming pool, but it might even struggle on a 55,000 litre outdoor swimming pool. So these are things you've got to think of. So what I've done now is I've got mechanical filtration second to none, and if you want to know more about this filter, you can see that in my other videos, and very little biological filtration. But this mechanical filtration is that good, it brings out the best in any biological filtration. So the beads actually run quite well. And what I had then is a Backe River. So this Backe River is a design of my own, and you can see this in my other videos, and it is basically a ceramic media in this section and this section, and the water just flows through it and then out at this end. And it's very similar capabilities to a Backi Shower, which you'll see in a second in the video, and with a few advantages for it being indoors, like it makes no noise, and it doesn't allow flies and stuff to get into it and stuff like that. So a few advantages for it being indoors, which is why I wanted this over a Backi Shower. Anyway, so the water of the pond flows through that drum filter every an hour and 20 minutes. Unfortunately, it only goes through here every 3 hours. So that's not really optimal. Really, you want it going through here every hour and a half, something like that, to be a realistically good filtration. However, the mechanical filtration on this pond with that drum filter, and then with the beads after that, is that good that any biological filtration after it will perform unbelievably well. So even though this only gets a 3-hour cycle, the mechanical filtration is that good that it amplifies the effects of this. So that's what you've got to think of when sizing the filtration. My mistake originally was that the Nexus on its own couldn't cope with the pond, and I was just adding mechanical filtration. So the Nexus was getting better in its performance, but was still not big enough to cope with the entire pond's volume. So that's where the issue was. So if you have a Backe River like this and put this after a Nexus, then this would do really well. It would do well after a Nexus, and same with the Backe Shower. However, it would just amplify your Nexus's capabilities rather than having its own capabilities on its own, whereas the mechanical filtration on this pond is that good, it makes this work effortlessly. And it does that because the muck from the muck that goes into the drum filter is almost instantly removed from the pond, so the ammonia and that has no time to come out of the muck, which significantly reduces the load on your filters to start with. So even if you just had the mechanical filter on this pond, and not a biological filter, you wouldn't see that major bad ammonia levels and stuff like that, just because the muck is being taken out instantly. And obviously the sides of the pond and all in the pond itself is a biological filter, so that will help in that respect. So the better your mechanical filtration, the better your biological filtration will be, but you can have the best mechanical filtration in the world. If you don't have the biological to back it up, then you will have problems. Or you can have the best biological filtration in the world, but if you don't have the mechanical to back it up, then you will have problems. So you've got to figure out a really good balance to make the filters work together. So there we go. I'll pop over to the Nexus and the Backi Shower. So this is the Nexus 220. Now this filter is rated to cope with an 18,000 litre pond. And again, following the sort of half and half measure, I would have this on a no more than a 10,000 litre pond. Because any more than that, you're going to really stress the biological stage, right? So the actual mechanical stage of this filter is quite capable, and quite capable of doing an 18,000 litre pond. But it's the biological stage you need to think about, and in this case it really isn't, in my opinion, capable of doing an 18,000 litre pond full of fish. So then we'll think about the Nexus 320 version. Well, that filter is capable of filtering a 34,000 litre pond. So realistically I won't have that much more than 18,000 litres, something like that. And that's where you're going to get the best results from them filters, and not have to worry too much about what you're feeding your fish, and then even like going on holiday or something like that, you could quite comfortably leave it a period of time without cleaning it, and that's something you might need to think about when sizing your filter. So this pond that this Nexus is connected to is actually 16,000 litres, so that's more than what I would recommend putting this filter on, especially because the 18,000 litres of this filter's recommendation is when it's got the maximum amount of K1 in this chamber, and this filter doesn't currently have the maximum amount of K1 in this chamber, so it's not capable of doing anywhere near a 16,000 litre pond. It's quite short of that. So what have I done to make this cope with a 16,000 litre pond? Well, what you can see here is the water comes out at the bottom to the pump, up to that thing there, then it goes to the UV light, across here, and then we come to the Backi Shower. So on this pond, the biological filtration of it is primarily done and relied upon on the Backi Shower. So the Nexus is used purely for its mechanical capabilities, and then the Backi Shower is the biological capabilities. And for those people that know a bit about Backi Showers and have seen them running and have used one before, they'll know that the actual Backi Shower is one of the best biological filters that you can buy. So what sort of turnover rate is this? Well, I would expect this to be able to cope with a full 18,000 litres now. The reason is because this is a 10,000 litre flow, so 10,000 litres an hour flow rate flows through that, and you want somewhere in the region of 1.5 hour turnover of your entire pond. So if you're looking at somewhere around 16,000 litres, which this pond is, you're pretty much set. So that's what determines the requirements of the Backi Shower, is how much water you can actually have flowing through it, rather than anything else. So obviously the media in this one is very important. So we've got Backi house media, which is in there, it's getting a bit little, with each one of these chambers. And the more media and the different types of media that you use, the better it'll be. Backi house media is a really good media for showers. it's not perfect, it's incredibly expensive, which is obviously a major downfall to a lot of people, but it does its job. It does what it's designed for really well, and it is really suitable to these filters. And this filter system is spot on for this pond, combining the biological and mechanicalness of the Nexus, and then finish off by the pure biological of that. So there you go, that's the Nexus and Backe Shower. So how about oversizing your filtration system? Well, for that I can look at my quarantine tank. Now this tank here is a 1,300 litre tank, and it has a drum on it again. And this drum is capable of processing water for a 34,000 litre pond, and it's quite capable of that. And then after the drum is another Backe River that's capable of processing water for a 10,000 litre pond. And what makes this capable of a 10,000 litre pond is that it is the amount of media in it for a start, but also that it's got a 5,000 litre pump on it. If you could put a bit bigger pump on it if you wanted a little bit better filtration for a bigger pond, and you get away with that, but only for a certain size pump, because of the amount of media in it eventually will limit you. And that's what you've got to think of when you're putting media in your Backe Shower or Backe River, is that you need to put in as much as you can really to get the best out of your filtration system in that respect. Also, this is ceramic media, which is just so much better than plastic media. Plastic media does not mature as quickly as ceramic media, and it does not respond as well as ceramic media. Ceramic media is just the best when it comes to processing water. So this pond, this 1,300 litre pond, has got a filtration system on it for 10,000 litre pond. And there's only 2 fish in it at the minute. I'm going to put some more in a bit. However, so do these fish in this pond grow to the size of the pond, the tank? No, they don't. This is a common misconception. Fish don't grow to the size of the pond. They grow to the size of the filtration system. So in this tank, you can say that this fish would grow to the size of a 10,000 litre tank, because they have the filtration system for a 10,000 litre pond. However, that only works to a certain degree. If I put the filtration system on this tank of this pond, of the main pond, it wouldn't be any better off. So you've got to sort of think of a cost to practicality ratio. And one thing that you get with a smaller volume of water is that every time the fish releases a little bit of ammonia, because there is less dilution factor, that ammonia has more of an effect on the tank itself. So what happens is, I can come in and feed these fish for a full day's worth of feeding, test the water on an afternoon, and it might be 0.3 milligrams per litre. It never really gets much higher than that, but it can do, depending on the stocking levels and how much I feed them. And then I can come back, I can go to bed, come back that morning, the next morning, and this will commonly be 0.17 milligrams per litre and less. And currently it will be definitely less, because I haven't been feeding these 2 fish very much. And that's what, so there's a high fluctuation in the ammonia levels, because what happens is it gets processed and then comes back, whereas with a bigger dilution factor on a 10,000 litre pond, it wouldn't come up as much, and then it'd get processed and it'd drop down a little bit. So the bigger the pond, the less fluctuations you can expect to see in ammonia and stuff like that. And having said that, this pond has to be kept averagely less than the lowest level of ammonia of that pond, of the quarantine tank. And the reason for that is the enormous volume of water. So 41,000 litres has quite a high dilution effect on any ammonia that the fish release, and then that ammonia gets processed out by the filtration system. But if the ammonia comes up to a high level, say 0.3 milligrams per litre, it will take a very long time for that to be processed out by the filtration system, because of the dilution effect. That is actually a very large amount of ammonia that is in that water, so it will take a longer time. So this needs to be kept, and does keep itself, a lot lower and a lot more stable than a smaller tank would. So there you go, that's the end of my video on sizing your koi pond filtration. If you enjoyed this video and want to know more information, please like it and subscribe. If you have any questions, comment below, and I will see you in the next video.